So good afternoon, everyone. For those who haven't met me before, I'm Jo Weir, Head of Partnerships at Westworks. It's nice to see some familiar faces as well as some new ones, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our first webinar on our social value series. It seems that social value has rapidly risen to the top of the procurement agenda, which is no surprise as it's a key feature of the new regulations. This year at Westworks, we have seen the price-quality weighting shift considerably, and social value now features heavily in the quality questions of most tender packs. This mirrors what's happening in public procurement more generally. Recently, I attended Procurement Act Live, The Journey So Far, and social value featured heavily in all of the talks I attended, even though I thought I had selected talks that were unrelated. In the conversations I took part in, it didn't take long for social value to become a discussion point. An overall impression was that both contracting authorities and suppliers find it difficult to incorporate meaningful, measurable and deliverable social value into their projects. That's why we're excited to be co-hosting this series with consultants from Solve Social Value, who I know have a great deal of expertise to share with you. The aim of this webinar is to bring people and organisations from the Westworks value chain together to explore, share and develop better practices in delivering social value. But we're not just here to inform, we're here to connect voices and collectively solve problems too. Throughout each webinar, we'll be collecting your experiences, thoughts and challenges to create a feedback loop between contracting authorities and suppliers. Today's session focuses on supporting SME contractors and those who are at the beginning of their social value journey, or simply aiming to enhance their approach. I'm pleased to introduce you to our three very experienced and knowledgeable guest speakers who will be delivering the session for you today. Firstly, we have Maurice Williams. Maurice, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thanks for that, Jo. Afternoon, everybody. I'm Maurice Williams. I'm Procurement Manager in Commercial Property and Investment at London and Quadrant, or L&Q. Previously, I was a procurement partner at South East Consortium, the framework provider. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Maurice. And next we have Jo Davis. Jo, please tell us a little about yourself.
Thanks, Jo. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jo Davis. I'm co-director of Solve Social Value. I have first-hand experience of the challenges of SMEs and their social value journey, having worked for an SME previously to working with Solve as a consultant.
And finally to Nicola Dibb.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Nicola Dibb. I'm Managing Director of Solve Social Value, and I'm also a bid writer. I've got my own bid writing company, so I have been seeing the journey that social value has had over the last few years and its rise in importance at tender stage. And Jo and I set up Solve Social Value to help organisations plan, deliver and measure their social value.
Thank you, Nicola. We also have Gracie behind the scenes today, helping with the Q&A. You'll see her a little bit later on. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the session via the Q&A function, and we aim to answer as many of those questions at the end. We will also be recording today's session and we'll make the recording available at the end of the webinar. To get us started, I'd like to hear from you first. What are your greatest challenges when it comes to social value? At the top of the screen, you'll see the Q&A button, which is on the right-hand side, left-hand side, second from the left, next to the chat function. The questions should be popping up in there now. If you could just take a few moments to put your responses in there, we'd be really appreciative. So perhaps you need more information about what social value is, or you're struggling to explain your social value offering in your bids clearly. Maybe you're uncertain about delivering social value or have a lack of resources to do it. if you can pop your answers to that into the Q&A now, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Thanks, Tabitha, for going first. That's really kind of you, getting the ball rolling. Yeah, it is really challenging. And fortunately, we're going to be covering that in today's session. So thank you for your honesty. So whilst everyone else is just catching up on putting their thoughts in there, I'll hand over and get the ball rolling with the juicy bits. Jo, over to you. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. So the agenda for the presentation today, we're going to tell you a little bit about Solve Social Value, why we're here today. What is social value? I'm sure most people in the room know, but we're just going to cover that off. Why is it important? What social value responses are contracting authorities looking for? And the kind of common challenges that through our consultation we understand that our SME clients face, and from personal experience, and then how to embed social value into your teams and your processes. And then finally, we'll touch on how to measure and the complexities of all the different proxy values and qualitative versus quantitative. And then obviously we really want to hear from you guys with questions, so that you hopefully have a voice at the end of this series, and we can take your first-hand experiences to contracting authorities at the end of the series. So next slide, please, Gracie. So I expect everybody in the room knows what social value is, so I'm obviously not going to go into that kind of level of detail, but we are going to talk about the new era of social value. We know that across lots of businesses and lots of small companies, there's lots of really good things that are happening across head office and sites, but a lot of that isn't captured. So what we wanted to talk about today is that you're probably all doing social value without realising it, in terms of through your considerate constructors activities, supporting local charities and local schools, careers fairs, that kind of thing. But the really important thing is now, with the new Procurement Act and the social value model, it means that we have to address some of the challenges to be in collecting that information, to be prepared for the new era, because we're now moving into the prove it era. Next slide, please, Gracie. It's not enough for us to simply say we're doing it. We have to gather evidence and prove it. And that is particularly important for going forward with strong bid proposals for future tenders. Thank you. Nicola.
So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background on Solve Social Value and why we set up in the first place. I've already mentioned that I also run a bid writing consultancy, as does Jo, and we noticed over the last probably 3 or 4 years an increasing focus on social value in bids. And in 2022, I was appointed by a main contractor who was experiencing issues around the non-delivery of social value. And basically that they invited me to come in basically and help them get the project back on track. So I found that the bid team had made lots of quite extensive promises at the tender stage, and these weren't communicated to the site team. So when I asked the site team how they were getting on with basically delivering these activities and obligations, they said they didn't know, they hadn't ever seen those before. So that was an immediate issue. They were actually tracking the Section 106 obligations, under the employment and skills plan. So that was the first sort of real light bulb moment when I realised, okay, so organisations have to understand that there's the Section 106 obligations and then quite often other commitments that are made at bid stage. So there was a lack of engagement with the site team, and also this resulted, you won't be surprised to hear, in client dissatisfaction. So the local authority and the housing association were very unhappy with that contractor, who actually had won the bid based on their social value offering, or the social value offering was weighted quite highly in the tender. So I generated a simple spreadsheet and timeline to help them get back on track. And this has now developed into a platform, which more about that a bit later. Next slide, please. So meanwhile, while I was working with that local authority, that contractor, the Procurement Act was launched. So Section 12 in the Procurement Act sets out 4 broad objectives: delivering value for money, maximising public benefit, transparency of information for suppliers, and acting with integrity. So authorities are being encouraged to consider how they can help SMEs to participate. That could be using clear KPIs, use of standard questionnaires, and also being proportionate with regards to the information that the contracting authority is asking for in terms of compliance within the ITT. So scoring is now MAT. I'm sure most of you are aware, most advantageous tender. So this is a focus on having higher regard for non-economic factors such as environmental social value. The scoring or the weighting of social value can be 10%. I've seen up to 20% in a recent tender that I've been working on. And what you've got to think about is, if your quality on site is good, if your program is similar to your competitors and your price is similar to competitors, what is the thing that is going to make you stand out the most? Next slide, please. So we've considered an approach when we were launching Solve Social Value, and really we've come up with this, a little bit of a graphic which shows how we see social value and how it connects to the contracting authority, and more importantly the communities that are the beneficiaries of the social value. So starting on the left, you've got meeting clients' reporting requirements, all the requirements within the tender. You know, that's really important that you can come up with some options and some offers that meet those requirements. And therefore, the social value that you offer and the social value that you deliver is more meaningful, and it will directly benefit the community. So instead of putting, you know, finger in the air and thinking, right, you know, what can we offer on this particular tender, consider how the social value can be more tailored to that local authority, that estate, that area, and therefore that results in customer satisfaction. So the contracting authority is more pleased because they're actually getting what they want, their community is getting what they want, and also there's a team well-being aspect to all of this. So we're trying to move away from the we've got a swear box at Solve Social Value. We never say tick box. So we need to move away from that tick box element of delivering social value, and therefore the teams in the contractors and the supply chain become more engaged, because they can see actually that what they're delivering is having a direct effect on the community, and therefore your reputation is going to increase in the area within that local authority, and you're more likely to win future work. So that really, this is really sort of the foundation of what we believe in Solve Social Value. Next slide, please. So within the Procurement Act, I've mentioned before about the KPIs. So every contract over 5 million, the contracting authority must publish 3 key performance indicators. And increasingly, we're seeing discussions around social value possibly being one of those KPIs. It really depends on the drivers and the objectives of that contracting authority and the area that the site is located. If you are not delivering, you're not performing, there is there's potential to be excluded, particularly of frameworks. So contractors' performance against the KPIs are going to be publicly published, and there is a potential for supplier exclusion if you are consistently not delivering on your social value. So really the message is to consider updating your internal processes and tracking and reporting your performance on social value as a business. It's more important than anything ever. We are increasingly seeing financial penalties for non-performance of social value commitments. That is probably on 3 out of 5 tenders that we see, is that there's a penalty if you, at the end of the project, if you haven't delivered the social value that you've said you're going to deliver. So really the message is that the social value, your responses at bid stage is really important, and getting your delivery planned so that you can actually deliver what you promise is key. Next slide, please. So we're just going to move on in a minute. I'm going to hand over to Maurice. We're going to talk about the contracting authority's approach to social value and the new social value model. Next slide, please. So the new social value model, you may have heard about it on LinkedIn or read some articles. It's PPN 02, which is mandatory from the 1st of October, so that's already live. It's initially for central government procurement, but we feel that some of the guidelines in there may start to be adopted by your own local contracting authorities. So this offers a menu of 8 says options there, but they're options, but they're within 5 missions. So the contracting authority can select which missions it wants the supply chain to focus on. So, for example, one is kickstart economic growth, one is make Britain a clean energy superpower, take back our streets, break down barriers to opportunity. So basically, though, it's giving contracting authorities more guidance and a robust framework in order to put a meaningful social value question in their tender, so they then get back the answers that they need to result in the meaningful delivery of social value for their communities. I'm just going to hand over to Maurice to pick up on these last 2 points, and then he will explain a little bit about procurement from the contracting authority point of view.
So yeah, rightly so, as Nicola said, the social value model and PPN2 is more linked to central government, but there is discussions and there is the opportunity for authorities, providers, councils up and down the country to either adopt it themselves or come up with their own sort of models that they know that will meet their strategic objectives. The good thing about the new Act and this model is the fact that it does really encourage that preliminary market engagement. So it's the opportunity for authorities and councils and providers up and down the country where they've already internally had their discussions, they know what they need, and it's then looking at, okay, let's put this to the market, let's see what potentially could be delivered under any social value metric. So it's really, really good in that aspect, in that it can be modelled and it can be tailored to your own. It does have the introduction of timescales for delivery, get to monitor them, and there's definitely governance and escalation points behind that. Next slide, please, Gracie. So from a housing association perspective, a provider's perspective, L&Q actually come up with 3 options when it comes to social value, because even including my period in time at SEC, I realised that I was seeing a lot more tenders come through where the same social value questions are always being asked no matter what the requirement is, and there are loads of different contract types out there. So for me, and it's it's quite rewarding and refreshing to see that an organisation like L&Q, we've come up with our three options, and they're really three basic options, as you can see on the screen. You've got option one, which is just to sign up to the L&Q Foundation call to action list, which is a basic requirement. It's if you're gonna go in for a bid or a tender, no matter what the size of the requirement is, that is just going to be the bare minimum. There will be an expectation. The second option is including option one, so that's automatic, but there will always also be an ESG question which is weighted, and a financial donation which will be calculated at the end of every financial or every year of the contract. So it's not something that L&Q will be looking to take straight away in terms of a donation, but it was something that will be worked out and calculated, and then the percentage will be done. The actual percentage is 1%. So every year of the contract is just going to be a 1% financial donation. And then the third option is when you've got those really big, meaningful tenders, like really high value. This is at the 5 million thresh marks, maybe even like from the say, I don't know, 2 million maybe onwards. This is where we're going to be really asking you to deliver a social value plan, a full social value plan, along with the ESG question. Next slide, please, Gracie. And I guess for me, I've been talking at a lot of conferences this year and industry sector events around social value and good general practice and opportunities under the new Act. So I guess from a from a housing provider perspective, I want to actually ask the audience, and feel free for you to use the Q&A function. What sort of options do you prefer, especially regarding SMEs? I want to know, do you feel you have the resource to do the full-blown tender with this full social value plan? Do you want options? Do you want more guidance? Do you want prescriptive social value requirements? We really want to open the floor and find out from yourselves as the market and as those wanting to get in bids. What do you prefer when you're looking at tenders and you're seeing elements of social value? Next slide, please, Gracie.
So I think this now to me, I think it answers one of the questions in the chat. David Martin was wanting to know what makes a really good, strong response. So we've kind of gone through two slides where, from our experience, we think this is kind of like a bare minimum, and then obviously how you can produce sort of a best practice or best in class social value response to your bids. The first thing I would say, and I go on to talk about this a little bit further later in the thing, is that whatever you do within your social value bids, make sure that it's a collective agreement. So don't just have one person sitting in a room, like the bid writer, creating the social value response to a tender. If it's going to be between 10 and 20% of the 60% quality section, it's as important as your program. It's as important as your method statement. It's, so you need to give it the same kind of weighting in terms of how you collaborate as a team to develop a plan. So by thinking about that collectively as a team from the very earliest stages of the tender process, you'll be able to create something that's sort of specific, measurable, and that you can kind of work out through the program how you're going to deliver your social value plan. As we say, some of the contracting authorities will be a bit more descriptive about what they want. So obviously make sure that you are descriptive and your kind of method for delivering the social value will meet the criteria that has been placed by the local authority or the contracting authority. Do a little bit of research, find out, if a contracting authority or a local authority has specific needs, look at their 5-year plan, and work out what kind of community partners there are in the area that you're going to be working in, and then identify, if you haven't reached out to them at tender stage, identify how you are going to reach out to them, and how you think that you can support those beneficiaries. And also how this will be engaged through your staff and through your suppliers as well. So if you're a main contractor, you may be relying on your supply chain to support some of the work experience, some of the apprenticeships, maybe some of the careers fairs, that kind of thing. So make sure that you've got a plan about how that's going to work. Talk about progress and reporting. So on a scheme that I was involved in for a large housing authority, it became part of the norm that social value was discussed at every progress meeting, like how are we getting on, what's happening next, how can the team get involved. So be very, be open, be communicative about it, and be honest about your reporting as well. Because if you're having a challenge in meeting some of your goals, then you can address that. But also, if you have experience in that, you can bring those lessons learned through to new kind of tender responses. And as I say, it's really, really important to have a timed plan for your social value. Really think about when you're going to deliver, how you're going to deliver, who's going to deliver, and how you're going to monitor that, and what kind of contingency plans you've got in place as well. And also, we need to think about what the budget for social value is going to be in your bids as well. It's obviously, we'll go on to that a little bit later, is understanding cost versus value, but inevitably there will be a value, there will be a cost involved, whether that is, as Mo mentioned, a charitable donation or that kind of thing. But it's, we need to think about that. So in your bids, you need to be saying, if you've earmarked some money for a charitable or some grants or to support, make sure that you outline that in your bid. So the next slide, please, Gracie. And then I guess to make it really best practice, and hopefully Mo will validate this for me, but making sure proposals are realistic and achievable. So as an SME or a tier 2 contractor, don't feel under pressure to compete with larger competitors. I've seen bids be marked down on social value because the person marking it from the contracting authority's point of view didn't believe that what they were saying they were going to deliver, that they could deliver, purely because of the size of the contractor, the contract value, or the resources available. What's your view on that, Mo?
I think it's true. I mean, you want to be able to understand what is being asked of you in the tender stage, and if nothing is really, really clear, use the opportunity for clarifications to raise them. And then once that period has ended, contracting authorities and providers will really look into those bids and submissions. They really will look at those weightings, and they really will look at the proposals to see if it makes sense. And if there is anything that doesn't make sense or they're unsure of, we will raise clarifications. We will raise post-tender clarifications and look for validation and just get assurances. And people have been marked down due to the fact that a social value plan hasn't looked realistic. And it can be quite disheartening because you think they've put in all of that time and they've just, I don't know, they've just thought by saying outlandish or things that aren't really achievable or doable, or even financially, you just know that it doesn't marry up. Unfortunately, that's where they're going to get marked down. So I echo that. Don't feel under pressure to compete with larger competitors. Don't overstretch your resource. I'd stress that highly.
Thanks, Mo. The other, to make a best practice, is if you are looking at kind of community partners and stuff, evidence that you, or say in your bid that, oh, we've reached out to XYZ charity community and we understand that they need this support, or they would benefit from, our expertise in, or, construction careers or technology innovations, that kind of thing. But just demonstrate that you've done that kind of pre-engagement piece as well. That's really powerful in a bid. Again, as I mentioned before, researching the contracting authority, if they've got a manifesto or a social value strategy themselves, or a 5-year plan, just try and make sure that whatever you're kind of aligning, if they haven't been prescriptive about what they want you to do, you can align your bid and your proposals with what they have identified that their borough, their community needs. And also, if they've got any of their own kind of foundations or charities that they have generated or are internal to their organisation, how you can match up your experience with supporting those beneficiaries. And as I say, it's really, really important to try and back up your proposals with where you've done it before. So give evidence, say, we have done this previously and we're going to bring these lessons learned to our social value plan for your project, and this is how we're going to do it. Couple of things missing, but points missing off of this slide. I think structuring your answer, it's really around who's going to do it, have an accountable person, have somebody driving it, how you're going to do it. So make sure that how you're going to do it is achievable, or what you're going to do is achievable, and how you're going to do it. So you've got a plan and you've thought about through the course of that 18-month program what you can realistically achieve. And then how you're going to report on it and how you're going to measure it at the end. If you haven't been given a set of metrics, like what's your impact reporting going to be? Sometimes it's as valuable saying that we will catch up with a charitable organisation in 6 months' time to say how our activities have created a positive impact for those people that were affected by what we've done, positively impacted by what we've done. So yeah, that's that for me. Next slide, please. So yeah, as an SME, as somebody that's worked in an SME, obviously we understand some of the challenges that there are in terms of even getting anybody to take social value seriously within the organisation. Quite often social value has been considered a bit of a burden. Site managers are too busy, project managers are too busy, commercial managers don't want to spend any money on it, and so it's really difficult for you as let's say a bid writer or somebody that's been required to deliver the social value at the other end of contract side. You need to, so it just makes your job really hard because people just go, oh, social value, I don't want to do it. I'm too busy, I've got my day job to do. So what we need to do first and foremost is gain buy-in of senior teams. So when I worked for an SME, I did a whole presentation to the board of directors and just explaining to them everything that we've talked about at the beginning of this webinar, why it's important, it's actually happening, we've got to do it to compete, and also what the benefits are for the organisation by taking social value seriously. You're upskilling your staff, you're becoming a more attractive employer because you have a social conscience that you can demonstrate. And if you want to do reports at the end of the year to investors or shareholders or whatever, you can really sing about your ESG, your social impact. But one of the first steps about that is really understanding that changing that narrative from the cost of social value to the investment of social value. It is investing in your business by winning work, customer satisfaction, upskilling your staff, and creating a positive workforce and that feel-good feeling for people that are delivering social value. When you do it and it works, it's a great feeling that you've made a difference to somebody's life. Obviously, demonstrating the risk to the business through non-delivery. Obviously, Nicola touched on that before, but people you'll get marked down on tenders because you're not doing it and you can't evidence that you're doing it. There'll be financial penalties for not delivering it and you could get struck off frameworks, and you become uncompetitive and you lose a client because of it. I touched on earlier about educating what is social value and what isn't. And that is a real key thing. I think if you've got somebody in your organisation that is the driver to social value, make sure people understand what social value actually is. Because, we get a lot of people that say, oh, yeah, we do loads of social value because our MD volunteers at swimming club at the weekend. Well, that's great for your MD, but that's not social value for your organisation because it's not associated with the area you're working in, the bid that the project that you're delivering, or for your organisation as a whole. And it's understanding also at that very early stage the difference between value and cost. So I don't think that people get really worried about proxy values when organisations say we have delivered £1 million worth of social value. That is a proxy value. It's not actually the cost to the organisation. That's a whole nother subject. Nicola's going to go and talk about measuring later on in the presentation. So it's just understanding that difference between the actual real cost and the actual proxy values. So embedding processes in the organisation is the first. Once you've got the buy-in from the senior team, then you want to start embedding it. So if you've got an ISO 9001 system, make sure that social value appears on all your meeting agendas, all your tender kick-off meetings, all of your tender settlement meetings, so that it's there and everyone's talking about it, and it's reported at board level on a regular basis. And because it's really important for business planning as well, in terms of allowing enough money within the financial budgets to effectively carry out social value. And also it's much more about creating a habit for reporting and capturing social value, rather than it being a chore. Like, make that easy for your teams, create somewhere on your intranet so that they can, somewhere that they can deposit whatever they're doing on sites, collate things through considerate constructors, whatever it is, and you can validate it later. But it's that capturing thing that's really, really important. And again, having clear roles and responsibilities. Ideally, you want somebody at board level that's responsible for the social value policy, that will sign the policy off every year. You want somebody then within the organisation. I love the idea of working groups, getting a group of people across different aspects of the organisation to be a social value working group and talk about what you're doing, how you're doing it, what's working, what's not working, what you can take forward to the next project. And also at an early stage within your organisation, like, kind of think about how you can create partnerships with local community organisations or charities that you can take forward, and you can insert that into your bid, because you're creating a process that you're creating partnerships that back up what you're saying you can do, and it just enhances your offering a lot more. So let's say, for example, if you partnered with like Crisis for homelessness, you can take that across any area, across any London borough, across any geographical area, and say, we've got this partnership with Crisis and we do this thing where we help homeless people in whatever way that might be. But it's something that you're doing regularly. It makes it an easy win, and you can take it forward to projects and to bids and evidence that you're delivering. So yeah, these are some of the challenges I've experienced firsthand, and also that we experience quite a lot when we're out doing our consulting with our clients. So hopefully that will help you kind of address that kind of driving social value as a really important factor for your business. So Nicola's going to talk about measuring.
Gracie, can I just, or Joe, can I just check how we're doing for time, please?
We've got 6 minutes left, so yeah, if we can keep it brief. But I know a lot of people were keen to learn about
sure,
measurement. So yeah, perhaps we can answer some questions after the session if people have got loads.
Okay, so in terms of measurements, social value bids are measured by the from a qualitative point of view or a quantitative point of view. Quite often there is different platforms and metrics that contracting authorities use. So you might have come across TOMS or HACT or Impact or Loop. So they all use slightly different ways of measuring their social value, which I can understand for us SME might be quite frustrating, because you've got to sort of almost reinvent the wheel every time that you're looking at a bid. So really, just to re-emphasize the message that we've all been trying to get over today, is to just make sure that your offer that you select is practical, so, and deliverable. It must be deliverable, because otherwise you will get scored down. You can look at giving money, or sponsoring events, and you can look at activities that have proxy value, so volunteering or taking on an apprentice, etc. And don't try to compete with the larger organisations, and actually embrace and promote the fact that you are an SME, you are operating in that area more likely, and you possibly have got therefore more to offer than a larger contractor who hasn't got that local connection. So that's a really good thing to bring out in the in the bid. And I was on a bid launch meeting for one of my clients a couple of days ago, and the estimator was focused on going out to all the subbies that he normally goes out to. And we actually then had a discussion around social value. And I was reminding him that if he can go or identify local suppliers, then that's a really big plus, really big positive for them. And actually, we were then going to discuss with those suppliers that if they want to work on that project, they need to be supporting that main contractor with the social value apprentices, etc. So also you can think about collating all your activity through the business, not just project based. So on the right hand side is a little screenshot of our Solve platform. So this is where my spreadsheet has developed to after 2 or 3 years. So we're working with organisations now where we're recording the all social value that they do. So that it might be a charity event that they've done, as well as project-based social value. It's really important to build case studies. So our platform has the ability, it's sort of like a hub. So where everything to do with that particular project, you can record and you can upload the evidence and what you've done on that project, and then create a case study. So for your next bid, you've actually got all the information to hand. And we would suggest not doing a sales pitch, but asking an external organisation such as Solve to validate and measure what you're doing is really important. So we have a set of proxy values that we're using to help our organisations actually understand how much social value they are delivering in terms of the proxy values and the pounds and pence as well as the impact, as Joe touched on before. So sorry, just before we move on to the next slide, the other thing that we've talked about is social value is not just about what you're going to do anymore. It's how you're going to do it, who's going to do it, and when you're going to do it. So what we work with our clients to do is a timeline. So we find all that we agree with them what the deliverables are going to be, or what deliverables they've actually signed up to on their tender, and then we plot those activities on a timeline to make sure they don't get to the end of the project and realise that they've still got lots of deliverables to complete. Next slide, please. So we've heard social value and encouraging SMEs to tender is important. So what can contracting authorities do to support you as SME suppliers in demonstrating social value at bid stage or at delivery stage? If you would like to pop some comments there, I'm sure Mo would be keen to respond to some of those. It's really important because we're not working in a vacuum. We don't want these to be like really hard exam questions that everybody gets frustrated about. It's actually working collaboratively, and the best social value outcomes that Solve Social Value see is where the contracting authorities are proactive and they are supporting their supply chain in actually delivering the outputs. So just to wrap up, last slide, we've talked today about the Procurement Act being a new focus on added value, community benefits and more opportunities for SMEs. So really using the fact that you're local in the area that you want to be working in. How you present your social value bid is important to maximise score. So as we've said, what are you delivering, who's going to deliver it and when, and having a real sort of robust plan and backing that up with evidence of where you've done it before. So delivery is key. Make sure you've got the processes in place to ensure targets are met and ownership internally. So we speak to a lot of clients who have this disconnect between the bid and then passing it on to the site team. So that's really important to make sure that you've got that integrated smooth transition and that the deliverables don't get lost. It's important for your reputation and future work. We've talked about that, and also consider how you will track and report KPIs for avoiding penalties. That is really important. And lastly, important for the social value, approaching it as we've outlined in this session is important for the well-being of your team and for attracting and retaining future talent. That is something that our clients have said to us on more than one occasion. So it's the Gen Z. They want to be working for organisations with a social conscience. So when they go on your website or your LinkedIn profile, they want to be able to see what you've done for the local communities. I think that's wrapping it up.
Yeah, thank you, Nicola. We did say we'd have a Q&A in this session. If people are happy to stay on, have got questions, we'd be really happy to answer those. So pop those in the chat or the Q&A function. I've got a quick one here about the PPN2 that you mentioned earlier. And you said that this is for contracting, for central governments at the moment. But do you think that will quickly sort of become mandatory for other public public authorities and public sector organisations?
I'll let Mo jump in, but I think that it may. I mean, I haven't read anything that says it's going to, but I think anything that creates a bit of a formal framework, I think they are likely to start considering it.
I think it's a good discussion to have, but then there's that risk of trying to standardize social value from central government all across other providers and councils, where it's different. The landscape is always different. We've got tenants, residents we need to consider. Our targets will be different and objectives will be different from central government. So I think there's good discussions to have around how that can be had. But ideally, housing associations, no matter how big or small they are, they should be looking, especially if they've undertaken all the training under the PA23 commercial function, they should be looking at ways and innovative ways of having social value, but making sure the social value is proportionate to the actual contract, like it actually makes sense, and giving contractors options, not just the typical full social value plan, because not every contract type will require a full social value plan. There are so many ways in which social value can be delivered, and I'm happy for anyone to reach out, because I know we did run over a bit, who's got further questions on approaches to social value. I'm happy for anyone to reach out on LinkedIn to continue those discussions, because I like engaging with SMEs, I like engaging with the market. So any knowledge I can give to help, always happy to.
Thank you. I've got one other question here just about Procurement Act 2023, attempting to encourage more SME suppliers, but at the same time kind of introducing actually you've got to deliver social value. Do you think that they're kind of at cross purposes almost there, or do you think that we've found the balance in terms of doing both, encouraging SME suppliers and delivering social value?
I see it in that you can deliver social value as an SME. I think if you find more organizations, or if other providers or authorities up and down the country really look at their portfolio and their contract types, and they ask the question of, can we deliver full social value plans on that? No. What can we do? Well, if they're fortunate enough, like L&Q, to have like a foundation, then they've got that automatic need and requirements from their foundation. It could be from attending careers days as part of a careers week. It could be doing repairs at a property or a local community building. Like, there is loads of ways in which social value can be delivered, and a lot of SMEs and contractors, they do it day in, day out. It's just how the authorities and the providers are framing their social value requirements and the questions. That's what I think is the key point, and the talking discussions.
Thanks,
Sorry,
Jo.
I just wanted to add, the whole bit that we talked about earlier about kind of just gathering all the information about what you're doing across all of your sites, it's really, really important because you can have a look at that, you can analyse it. And we say to our clients, try and create a bit of a strategy, things that you've done before, that you've done well and that your staff or your teams like doing. And then you can roll that out and weave that into future bids. And then it kind of just makes the whole process of delivery a lot easier.
Very true.
Brilliant, thank you. I can't see any more questions in the chat or the Q&A, but do pop them over. I'll share the contact details at the end if you want to share any further thoughts. But I'll just hand over to Jo Weir to say a few words before we close.
Thanks, Gracie. Well, I think, yeah, we have overrun a little bit, but I think you'll agree that it was worth it. There's some really great pieces of information that have come out of that session, so I hope everybody else has found it just as valuable. Finally, I'd like to thank our panel, Nicola, Jo and Maurice, for joining us today. I really enjoyed listening to you and your insights. I think embedding social value into your organisation and operational conversations was the bit that really stuck with me. I think that's a sensible approach and way to view it. I know we're all most happy for you to link with us afterwards, so we have got the our details up on screen. We're also all on LinkedIn, so if you want to link with any of us there, we'd be most happy for anyone to link with us and ask any questions that you may have there as well. Again, thank you very much for attending. Thanks for participating and for all of your questions, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon and have a great weekend.
Thanks everyone. Have a nice
weekend,
everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Goodbye.